In this video, we're going to be talking about stablecoin plays. We're going to be comparing stablecoins because it's not always apples to apples. And of course, how to make some tasty yield on Pulse Chain and the Power City ecosystem with your stablecoins. So with no further ado, the man with all the info on stablecoins, no other than Just Ask Jesse in the house.
Hey, y'all.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. We are nearly 5 weeks into the Earn protocol being live, which has seen some good metrics. How are you watching this play out? How are you feeling about it all?
I think everything's played out exactly like I imagined, and just like our testing showed it would, just like previous deployments, like the original Liquidity kind of played out. What you see is the peg is pretty good, right? So on this interface, it shows that it's at just about 99 cents for PXDC. Now, this doesn't account for some of the bigger pools, actually, like over on PHUX. There may be some arbitrage opportunities there. We're typically sitting somewhere between 99 cents and a dollar. There's still some people that aren't necessarily aware of the best place to swap, right? So just because PulseX is quite popular doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you're going to get the best rate. The X times Y equals K formula that PulseX uses is not as efficient as other formulas like X plus Y equals K that you might find over on like a stable swap sort of pool on PHUX. Luckily, Piteus, which you can navigate to now directly through portalxswap.io, which is our swap aggregator tool. You could just go to PortalXSwap. You can find the best rate for swapping your stablecoin. Okay, if people start doing that instead of going directly to a DEX, I think the peg will get just a little bit better. It'll sit right at $1, I think. Remember, whenever you swap one token for another token, it's like you kind of got to shop around. And the reason we made PortalXSwap is because it does the shopping around for you. It just displays to you all the different routes. You select the route. It gives you the best rate possible.
So you can see here on the screen, I've got it up, and you can see that we've got some of the routes there, some of the routes. Yep,
absolutely. So that's all played out quite well. And remember, I talk about redemptions quite a bit. We're going to talk about redemptions a little more today. But that doesn't mean that it's a swap. That doesn't mean, hey, I've got this PXDC, I have to redeem to get something else, right? You can swap to get something else. Just make sure you shop around. Use our portalxswap.io tool. It's going to find you the best rate. Get into what you want to get into. And Pineapple 888 says, where can we provide liquidity for the PXDC USDL pair or PXDC DAI? Okay. So over on PHUX, there's a pool called the Oracle and Bridge pool. There it is. It's quite popular. It's towards the top. The current liquidity in there is 1.3 mil. And this is where you can go to provide stable to three other stables liquidity, right? So this pool contains the three bridged-in stables. It contains USDL and it contains PXDC. It pairs them all together in a stable swap algorithm so that the swappers can get the best rate. You come here and you'll get a pretty good yield. What is it at now? Currently
between 10 and 18% at the moment.
Yep, between 10 and 18%. That number fluctuates based on the values of PHUX and the trading volumes and such that go through here. At times we've seen that number as high as 20%. I don't think I've ever seen it go below 10. Right. So this is where one place where you can provide liquidity. The other, and you're mitigating some of that impermanent loss that you would if you're pairing a non-stable together. So here, imagine just taking stable coins, and all of these stable coins are redeemable, right? They all maintain a peg because of their redemption mechanism. So they're all relatively safe, unless Circle was to stop redemptions or the banks went under or something, right? Then you'd have an issue, right? But we're talking about the three most popular stable coins in crypto, which is USDT, USDC, and DAI, right? DAI is redeemable for $1 worth of ETH over on the ETH chain. Pair these things together, you're typically mitigating any impermanent loss, and you're just earning trading fees, and you're also earning the incentive token of PHUX. So this is an excellent place for people who are very risk adverse. They want to stay away from some impermanent loss risks. Not to say that those plays aren't good, because you're typically compensated for impermanent loss in other ways. So if you were to go over to PulseX V2, you can provide liquidity of PulseX token paired to PXDC, and you can get an emission of earn tokens. And what, depending on what the market action of PulseX is at any given time, you're the trading, you're going to end up with more of one token, less of the other, or vice versa. But you're also, the entire time you're in there, if you take your LP tokens, you go stake them into Earn Protocol, you're going to gain an emission of Earn tokens. That program ends at the 60,
about 20. I think we've got about 25 days left on that.
Yeah, so there's 25 days left of that. 25 days worth of emissions left.
And then with that, obviously, earn token, you can do as you please, or you can stake that for the fees in the system to get more yield. So every time someone mints PXDC or someone redeems, earn stakers are getting a cut of that, right?
Correct. Yep.
So there's many different ways. So we're looking at talking about stable coins. Obviously, not all stable coins are created equal. Even when looking at the PHUX pool, obviously there's different types of stable coins and how they're backed. Maybe we can talk about the different types, because it's apples to oranges sometimes, a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah. So the big three that brings the most value into Pulse Chain at the moment would be USDT, USDC, and DAI. Okay. All three of these stable coins. All right. So let's talk about USDC and USDT. Those are backed by fiat reserves, right, that an institution holds. When people enter an exchange, they put up fiat. The exchange, in partnership with Circle or with Tether, will mint stablecoins based on the fiat that's brought in. Okay, so as more fiat comes in, more stablecoins get minted. As people exit crypto, and that fiat leaves the exchanges, the stablecoins get burned. Okay, so in bull markets, the quantity of USDT, USDC, it goes way up. During bear markets, when people are starting to exit, the quantity of those stable coins goes way down. But they're typically backed by fiat. There are a couple times in history where the banks, for whatever reason, have like paused, frozen, and people got spooked because of the redemption ability. And that redemption ability is that burning and minting I'm talking about, right? So if you send a stable coin into an exchange and they burn it, but they give you fiat in exchange for it, that's literally a redemption. The collateral was sitting there at the exchange or with Circle. They're burning your stablecoin and they're giving you part of the collateral. All right. So if there's ever a spook in the markets where a bank shuts their doors for a few days, and this has happened even with the USDC, there's no way to arbitrage the token quickly, right? Now on a DEX, the values of these things go up and down, right? If you dump any ERC20, the value is going to go down. If you buy an ERC20, the value is going to go up. What keeps a stablecoin stable is when somebody dumps some, the next guy comes in and he says, oh, but there's an arbitrage opportunity. I know I can redeem that for $1 over there, and I'm looking at it on the DEX, and it's less than $1. Let me buy it, redeem it. It drives the value up. The guy who completed that arbitrage profits, and then everybody's happy because the stablecoin repegs to $1. Okay, so with USDC and USDT, that collateral is the fiat. Now with DAI, that collateral is the ETH. $1.30 worth of ETH backs every single DAI out there on the Ethereum chain, right? And you're talking 5 billion plus DAI in existence, which means there's I don't know, somewhere close to, there's over $6 billion worth of ETH, way more than $6 billion worth of ETH that backs all of that DAI, and that DAI is completely redeemable. You can use the Oasis platform, and you can send that DAI in. You can essentially burn it, and then you can get some of that collateral back. All right, that particular collateral can't be changed. They can add new collateral for future contracts, but all the existing collateral can't be changed. Right, so it's currently backed majorly by just a boatload of Ethereum, right? And there's a direct redemption mechanism. The way that USDL and PXDC work are quite similar. The PXDC and USDL are both backed by Pulse and PulseX, or vice versa, respectively. And there's more value in collateral than there is in the stablecoins that are minted. And at any time, any user out there, and this is impossible to shut off, it can't be stopped, any user can bring their PXDC, for example, back into the system and say, I no longer want this. I'd like to burn some, and in exchange, collect some of that collateral. Some of those stablecoins burn themselves out of existence, the ones that you're using to redeem, and it gives you an equivalent value of the collateral, right? So if you burn 100 PXDC, you're going to get $100 for the PulseX. Burn 1,000 PXDC, you're going to get $1,000 for the PulseX. Okay, the collateral is always there, and there's actually excess collateral in the system to support it. Each of those vaults has to maintain more than just the dollar-to-dollar collateral. The minimum that any one vault can have is 110%. The minimum as a system is going to be 150%. And right now we're seeing somewhere around 300 or 400%. So every single PXDC is backed by like 3 times its own value. All right. That's what we call a very healthy system. That means that no matter what happens on a DEX, somebody dumps the stablecoin, the price goes down. Somebody else comes in right behind and says, wait a minute, why is this thing trading at 97 cents when I know I can redeem it for $1 for the PulseX? They buy it, it drives the price up. They can then either just be happy that they got a cheap stablecoin and they help drive the price up, and they hold that and stake it or whatever, they go LP or whatever they want to do, or they can go ahead and just redeem it directly and profit immediately through the redemption mechanism, get $1 for the PulseX for each one of those stable coins they bought for less than $1. Now, typically stable coins that do not have this mechanism, and you've seen this with Luna, they typically fail. You know, speculation alone is very that's cool for things that are not supposed to be stable, but you do have to have a mechanism that guarantees that arbitrage to keep something stable. And that's why we created, or we forked and then created PXDC, so that people can use PulseX as the collateral and have it fully backed, have the stable fully backed and redeemable. And the system's working wonderfully. There's also, it can never be stopped. It's trustless, it's immutable, it's community owned. The community can participate in the staking mechanisms to earn all the fees, to earn the emissions of the earn token, the yield. Right now in the stability pool, what's that sitting at? 40 or 50% over in the stability pool?
Let's have a look. We're sitting at
You're in the LPs right now, so go to the home there.
Stability pool, we're sitting at 37.9% at the moment.
All right. So imagine that, y'all. If you had some stable coins, which are all the craze right now, by the way, if you just have stable coins and all you have to do is stake them right there, you're earning 37% just staking your stable coins. Why are you putting stable coins in there? Because it's not like you put them in there and like it's not necessarily guaranteed that you're going to get the same quantity of stable coins back out if you end your stake in there. If somebody's liquidated, some of your stable coins, some of all of the people's stable coins in the stability pool is going to pay the debt, but you will be getting PulseX at a 10% discount off the market price. The value that you're earning, if there's ever a liquidation in the system, goes like you're having more value earned than what you put in there, what you had burned, right? So you're there. The stability pool is specifically there to instantly cover a liquidation. That's one of the major differences with the DAI that's over on Ethereum chain. When Robert Locko, who created Liquidity, looked at Maker, he said, where could this fail? And Maker has a 6-hour liquidation process. If there's ever a liquidated vault in Maker, the debt gets put up for auction and somebody has to buy it, and that auction lasts for 6 hours. That in and of itself is a great risk. It's also the reason that the liquidation happens at 130%. If you're in Maker and you have a vault, you get liquidated, you're losing 130% of the value that you minted. You may have minted 100 DAI, but you just lost $130 worth of ETH, for example. It seems a little bit excessive. But the reason they had to do that was because there's like this big 6-hour window where your debt goes up for auction, and there's a real risk of the value of ETH continuing to fall during that 6 hours. You could literally get into a situation where the system becomes insolvent if there's enough liquidations, and if ETH was to fall by 30% or more and a whole bunch of liquidations, the system could become insolvent. People might not even want to buy the debt, right? So there's no reason why something should go to auction. The debt should be covered immediately, right? So what Liquidity did is they said, let's create this stability pool. People will deposit their stable coins into this pool. And in the event there's a liquidation, those stable coins immediately cover the debt. They burn themselves immedately, and then the stability depositors pick up the collateral, and they pick it up at 110% of the value they just burned. Okay, so there's still an incentive to be in there. You just gained value in the case of Earn Protocol, and you just gained a 10% value in PulseX from what you had burned. And it covers the debt immediately. There's never a chance for insolvency. There's no 6-hour liquidation period. It's just very, very quick because you have the value already sitting in a pool ahead of time, instead of after the fact hoping that people auction for it. Okay, the debt is covered immediately in the stability pool. So that's like probably the biggest difference between this and Maker. There's a lot of similarities, the way the vaults work, except here you only need minimum 110%, not 130%. The stability pool covers debt immediately. In Maker, there's an auction process. Both systems have an oracle. You can't just use spot price. There's dangers involved in using just a spot price. And then the other major difference is the fees all flow to the stakers. So you see that there's a staking tab down here. Since liquidations don't happen all the time, you have to incentivize people to be in that stability pool. You need people to be in there ahead of time with their stable coins so that in the event there's a liquidation, they can cover it. How do you entice them to be in there if people aren't being liquidated all the time? You don't want that to just be empty. Now, there's another mechanism that works if it was to be empty, and that's interesting. We may or may not get into that, but you want people to be in the stability pool. So what do? You say, okay, this system, whenever somebody mints, there's a fee. Whenever somebody redeems, there's a fee. Who gets to collect the fees? The people who collect the earn tokens. And you have to be in the stability pool to get an emission of these earn tokens. Okay. Now you just created a way where people are like, ooh, I want the fees. The only people, it's like our own community bank. The only people who get to collect these fees are the ones who are in the staking pool with the earn tokens. And the only way that you can get those is you either already have your hands on them through you bought them on the open market, or you got to sit in the stability pool and you got to earn them. Right. And the less people in the stability pool, the higher the yield. The more people, they're all diluting each other, the lower the yield. But the system's a little healthier if there's a lot more people in the stability pool. So it's just a really beautiful system that pays all the fees to the users. The debt's covered immediately if there's a liquidation because of that stability pool. There's no 6-hour liquidation process. The stablecoin is always fully redeemable for $1 for the PulseX at any time. So that you can't, have this insolvency stat. You can't ever go into this insolvent mode, or what else? Yeah, like those are the big differences.
Well, here's a question though. So talking about the comparisons, we looked at obviously bridged in USDT or just USDT and USDCC in general, and you're saying they're redeemable for actual cash in the bank. Obviously, we hope there is that cash in the bank. Here we can see that we're at the moment over 400% over collateralized compared to that. But let's talk about UST, which was the Luna coin that obviously went into a death spiral. How did that last for so long? Was it because just speculation and people
100%
until a bank run happened, right? And then it all went to down the pan, basically.
Absolutely. So there's a number of stablecoin systems that have tried to, you'll hear them referred to as algorithmic. And I'll never call this system algorithmic because nothing I explained is actually algorithmic at all, is it? No, it's users. It's all completely user driven. Users can come redeem, users put themselves in the stability pool, users stake, users mint, users pay back their own loan. There's nothing automatic about it. Now, what Luna did is like they use this system where they just burn and mint the supply of their own collateral token, or burn and mint the stable coins like automatically, trying to drive market behaviors to make the collateral value go up. Okay. But that doesn't matter if people are just dumping the collateral value anyway. Right. So they would wildly inflate their token, and in turn wildly inflate the stable coins. There ended up being just billions and billions and billions of stable coins that were minted into existence and barely any value backing any of them. Okay. And even that lasted for a while. It lasted for a couple of months. All it took was one guy to say, you know what, this is dumb. This isn't sustainable. And create a tweet about it and dump some. And everybody realized that because there was no redemption mechanism, because the collateral wasn't in the system for them to get back out, the only way you could get out of that stablecoin was to dump it on a DEX. And oh my, you don't want to be the last guy to do that, right? So you're looking at the system that has billions of stable coins and only millions of dollars worth of collateral. And you're also looking at the DEXs and you're like, wow, there's some millions of dollars worth of liquidity, but if I don't dump this stable coin, I might get stuck. And that creates a bank run where everyone races off to the DEXs to try and offload their stable coins as fast as possible, so they're not the one holding the bag. And that makes the value go way, 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 way down. Now, because there's no redemption mechanism, there's nobody there to buy it back up. And no economic energy in the world could come in and support billions and billions of dollars of people dumping when there's no incentive, there's no arbitrage, there's no redemption mechanism to do so, right? So nobody buys it back up. It went down. The only people that bought it were the speculators. So it just crashed down to near zero. Some speculators bought the bottom, and it bounces around. And it, you know, sure, there's people that made gains off of it by buying the bottom, but all 100% speculation. Nothing about it was stable.
So if we were talking about most secure to least secure, let's start at least secure. You start saying like UST that obviously went that death spiral. Then in the middle, I guess you'd have centralized stable coins, which, you know, they do have a good track record, but obviously we're hoping that they have the money in the bank they say they do. And then something such as PXDC or USDL, where you can see online, it's undeniable that it's over collateralized and you can always redeem for $1.
Correct. Now, there's a couple questions in the chat. Somebody says, I got redeemed at over 400%. Not upset, just curious why. So the way the system works, since every stablecoin out there is redeemable if people want to redeem them for PulseX, the system has to look at the lowest collateralized vaults. If the system's in an average state of 300 or 400%, okay, you could be at the bottom of that list, even at 300 or 400%. There might be one or two vaults that it redeemed through before yours, but if you're like the third guy or the fourth guy or whatever, and the redemption was big enough, even if you're 400%, if you're in the pecking order, you're going to be redeemed. Now, this isn't always a bad thing. People get scared of this. If the price of PulseX is going up and you're redeemed and you are slow and you're like, oh, I was just redeemed, but I didn't want to be redeemed. I'm going to go use my stable coins that I minted already that you have in your possession. And let me just swap those back out for PulseX and put it back in my vault and then recreate my debt position. You can do that if you want to. But if the price of PulseX is going up, maybe you can't get back as many PulseX as you first started with. But if you notice, like, these things are quite volatile to an extent. Pulse goes up, pulse goes down, pulse goes up, pulse goes down. So if you just either wait a second and hope that the price comes back down, or if you're redeemed while the price of PulseX is going down, because that happens too, you're more than happy, because as long as you didn't blow your stable coins on, a bad investment, you still have them. You simply buy back your PulseX, and in some cases, more PulseX than you started with. Drop them in your vault, recreate your debt position, remit your stablecoins. You're right back to where you started, but you also still had all those earn tokens you had been earning the entire time, right? Which even if the price of PulseX was going up, maybe that offset some of your, maybe you bought back PulseX and you didn't get back as much as you started with. Maybe you feel like you lost 1 or 2%. Well, even that's not necessarily a bad thing if you were making a really good yield on your earn tokens, right? So I encourage everyone to read the white paper, how the redemptions work. There's this great fear that people have of them. And I would always say, if you are scared of a redemption happening, then don't have a debt. Use the system in other ways. You can still just buy the stable coins on the open market and drop them in there in the stability pool. You can earn tokens while you're in there. You can buy earn tokens and put them in the staking pool. There's other things that you can do. If you're willing to take a debt position, you are the type of person who wants to put your PulseX to work for you at this moment in time. If you are towards the bottom of the pecking order and there's a redemption, that's the risk. Somebody's coming in and they're paying your debt. And at that moment in time, if you still have your stables, you can buy back your PulseX if you wish, but that's a risk that you put yourself into, right? You may end up with more PulseX. You may end up with a little less PulseX. Also, something to consider, don't necessarily use your whole bag. If you've got like a huge bag of PulseX and you're like biting your fingernails scared of what a redemption is, why would you put your whole bag in there? Just put, as much as you're comfortable with or need to, because remember, this is a loan. It's a debt. You're welcome to pay back your own debt. If you're towards the bottom of the pecking order, somebody else is also allowed to come pay back your debt, right? So please read the white paper to get a better understanding.
Let's pick apart this comment from Pineapple 888 because I think he's a bit confused about fees you earn and then obviously the fees of the protocol. So he's asking about how much is the fee for staking per month, per week, per day. That depends on how many people use the system. So how many people are minting and redeeming. And that's different to the protocol fee, which at the moment we can see is about 1.2%, but that changes. So there's not, and he asks, do we need more users in the protocols to get more fees? Yeah, the more people that use the own protocol, the more fees that will be paid. Therefore, they will flow to the stakers. So there's not like a set fee for the staking pool.
Right.
And I think that's pretty much it. Redemptions, we've touched on that. We've touched on how the redemption mechanism is necessary, obviously, to keep PXDC at or close to $1. But of course, there are other options like on Proteus or PulseX. I think it's best for everyone to, just like you do with anything, right? You shop around for the best price. You should do that too if you're thinking of redeeming PXDC, just so you can find somewhere where you can get more for your bigger bang for your buck, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, we the reason we released Portal X first was really to get that all situated, ready for the community, so that when all these other dApps that we're releasing come out, people could use them. You wouldn't want it's just easier, right? So like we have our own place so you can go and find the best rate for your swap. It's right there. It's integrated with Proteus. Some really great guys over there that did a good job having their own aggregator, which you can access as a provider right through Portal X. And the fees from this, there's a tiny fee attached in Portal X. The fees go to the stakers in the core.
Right? And that's a great segue because we haven't touched on that yet today. Let's just touch on this before we wrap it up and talk about the core quickly, because this is obviously the core of the whole Power City ecosystem, right?
Yep. So the core is, the central staking platform of Power City itself. Now, around that, we have a whole bunch of dApps, some yet to be released. Some are we haven't even told you about. We have some tricks up our sleeve. Now, a portion of all the fees, to include some of the fees from Earn Protocol, flow to the stakers in the core. And you'll see there's 5 tokens rewarded now: PXDC, Wrap Pulse, PulseX, Loan, USDL. You can see on the collector tab, I think you can see how much has gone to the users at the moment. Now, this reads the current market price. It's hard to capture historical values as the fees are flowing in, but we might take a closer look at how it's reading these values. But the fees collected are here. You can see the quantities at least. 1.5 billion PulseX, PXDC 82,000. Think about that, 82,000 PXDC. We've only been live with Earn Protocol for 5 weeks. $82,000 worth of fees has flown to the core. That's just the core. There's like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of other fees that have flown direct to the Earn stakers. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fees. Okay, insane. It's doing insanely well, right? Yes. Do we want more users? Absolutely. Of course, we'd all like to see these fees like be in the millions and millions of dollars. We're 5 weeks in, 82 grand worth of fees has flown to the core. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fees has flown to the Earn stakers that stake directly. Rat Pulse, what do we got? Half a billion from Portal X swap. I think there's some more that'll trigger very soon to flow to the stakers in the core.
So we got fees flowing from Portal X swap, from Earn, from other dApps coming down the pipe, such as Amplifier, Pixel Park, other tricks up our sleeve, like you said. So all of these protocols are going to be obviously providing value to the community, and obviously when you use it, there'll be a fee, and these will flow into the core. So don't sleep on the core. Check it out. The core of the whole Power City ecosystem. So that's pretty much it for today, Jesse. Thanks for coming on as always and dropping your knowledge on stablecoins. If I find anyone who knows more on stablecoins than you, I'll eat my hat. But for now, you are the man. So anything else you want to say before we sign out?
No, that's it. Appreciate y'all's time.
Thanks for coming on, man. See you soon. Guys, thanks for watching. And if you want to find out more about the core Portal X swap and the Earn protocol, links are in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.